What if I told you the man who may have solved one of the most infamous unsolved murder cases in history actually confessed, and nobody believed him? In 1960, 4 teenagers went camping beside a peaceful Finnish lake. By sunrise, 3 were dead, and 1 was barely alive. For the next 65 years, investigators uncovered confessions, suspicious suspects, and shocking forensic evidence. But one overlooked detail could change everything we think we know about this case. And the most chilling part? The answer may have been hiding in plain sight the entire time. He opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was light. The kind of pale gray light that only exists in Finland in early June, when the sun barely sets and the mornings arrive like they were never really gone. He was lying on the shore. His face was destroyed, bones fractured. His body had been beaten so severely that later, doctors would struggle to explain how he was still alive. He turned his head. 3 of his friends were dead. 2 girls, 15 years old. His best friend, 18, stabbed multiple times. And he, Niels Gustafsson, was the only one breathing. He said he couldn't remember anything. For 44 years, everyone believed him.
Before we go back to that tent, I need to tell you 3 things.
First, a woman at a kiosk near the lake looked those teenagers in the eye the evening before and told them not to camp there. She knew something. And the reason she knew had been living 50 meters from that water for years. Second, 9 years after the murders, the man who almost certainly committed them sat across from a friend and told him exactly what he'd done. That friend didn't believe him. Hours later, that man walked back to Lake Bodom and drowned himself. The case was never officially solved. Third, in 2004, police rearrested the one survivor, Niels Gustafsson, then a retired grandfather, and told him they'd found the victim's blood on his shoes. By the end of this video, you will know everything, and you will understand why, after 65 years, not a single person has been convicted of killing 3 teenagers at Lake Bodom. Let's go back to the beginning. It was 1960. Finland was 17 years removed from World War II. The country was rebuilding. Young people were doing what young people have always done. They were trying to feel alive. Mila Bjorklund was 15 years old. By all accounts, she was warm, social, the kind of girl who made the room feel different when she walked in. She'd been dating Niels Gustafsson, older, 18, owned a motorcycle, which probably made him seem more sophisticated than he was. Her best friend Anja Maki was also 15. Anja was dating Seppo Boisman, Niels's best friend, also 18. 2 couples. The 4 of them had been planning this camping trip for weeks. They borrowed a tent. They packed food. They had fishing gear. They were going to spend one night at Lake Bodom, a large, beautiful lake near the city of Espoo, about 18 miles from Helsinki. Nobody told them anything was wrong with that lake. Well, almost nobody. Near the shore of Lake Bodom, there was a kiosk, a small lakeside stand where campers could buy snacks, drinks, small supplies. It was run by a woman and her husband. When those 4 teenagers stopped at the kiosk on the evening of June 4th, 1960, the woman looked at them and told them not to camp at the lake that night, to go somewhere else. She was insistent enough that they remembered it. They didn't listen. They chose a spot near the water. They set up the borrowed tent, a small, low canvas tent barely large enough for 4 people. They ate, They talked. Probably they laughed. At some point between midnight and 2 in the morning, all 4 of them fell asleep. Sometime between 4 and 6 a.m., something came to that tent. The first person to notice something wrong was a herdsman working on the opposite shore. He saw movement near the tent. Strange movement. He didn't investigate. A 14-year-old boy named Olavi Kivalati, a fisherman, nearsighted, later told police he'd seen a blond man in a light sweater walking away from the area, about 50 meters from him in the early morning hours. Police arrived to a scene that should have told them everything. Mila Bjorklund, 15 years old, was found on top of the shredded tent. She had been stabbed after she died. All 3 victims had been beaten and stabbed. The tent had been destroyed. Items were scattered. Niels Gustafsson was found nearby, alive, face first in the ground. Here is the first catastrophic mistake the investigation made. They didn't secure the crime scene. Police allowed search parties, witnesses, curious locals to walk through the area before it had been properly documented. Footprints were destroyed. Potential trace evidence was contaminated or lost entirely. By the time forensic teams properly assessed the site, it was already compromised. 50 witness reports would eventually come in about a blond man seen near the lake that morning. 50. Not a single one led to an arrest. No murder weapon was ever found. And Niels Gustafsson, lying in the hospital with a fractured face, told investigators he couldn't remember the attack. They hypnotized him in July 1960. He still said he couldn't remember. 3 people were dead. Nobody was charged. And the investigation, almost immediately, began to fall apart. Over the years, 3 main suspects emerged. Each one is darker than the last. Suspect 1, Pentti Soininen. In the mid-1960s, a violent criminal named Pentti Soininen confessed to killing the teenagers at Lake Bodom. He told a fellow inmate. Word got back to investigators. There was one problem. On the night of the murders, Pentti Soininen was 14 years old. Investigators concluded it was implausible, but not impossible, that a single 14-year-old had overpowered 4 teenagers, killed 3 of them, and left almost no evidence. Some researchers still don't fully rule it out. What happened to Pentti Soininen? On June 6, 1969, the 9th anniversary of the murders, Pentti Soininen hanged himself. Suspect 2, Hans Assmann. Hans Assmann was a German immigrant living in Finland near Lake Bodom. He had a mysterious background. Rumors, never officially confirmed, connected him to the KGB. He was a known recluse. On June 6, 1960, the morning after the murders, Hans Assmann checked himself into the Helsinki Surgical Hospital. His clothes were covered in red stains. His fingernails were black with dirt. He arrived in a severely delirious state. He was never charged. He had an alibi. But investigators quietly noted that he'd been linked to at least 3 other unsolved murders in Finland, including the killing of a 17-year-old girl in 1953. Hans Assmann died without ever being charged for any of them. What I'm about to tell you is real. It's documented. And it might be the most disturbing thing in this entire story. Carl Valdemar Gillstrom was known locally as the Kioskman. He owned the kiosk at Lake Bodom, the one where the woman had warned the teenagers not to camp that night. That woman was his wife. Gillstrom had a history with that lake. He was known to be deeply hostile toward campers. Over the years, he had cut down tents, thrown rocks at hikers, and once, witnesses said, fired a gun in the direction of a passerby. He was considered aggressive, unstable, territorial about the lake he lived beside. His wife told police he was home all night on June 4th into the 5th. Police believed her. Some locals said they'd seen Gillstrom returning home in the early hours of June 6th. but they were too afraid of him to call the police. 9 years passed. In 1969, Carl Gillstrom sat down with a friend, a man named Bordia, for a drink. And during that conversation, he leaned in and said, "Don't you understand? I did it." Bordia didn't believe him. When Gillstrom pressed him, asked what he should do if he really was responsible, Bordia said, "You should drown yourself, because you'd spend the rest of your life in prison." A few hours later, Carl Valdemar Gillstrom walked back to Lake Bodom and drowned himself. The case was never solved. 44 years after the murders, Finnish police made a decision that shocked the country. They arrested Nils Gustafsson, the survivor, the man with the broken face who said he remembered nothing. The man who had, by 2004, married, raised 2 children, retired, and lived what appeared to be a completely normal life. Police had been quietly working the case with DNA technology that didn't exist in 1960. What they found: blood from each of the 3 victims on Gustafsson's shoes. The new theory was this: Gustafsson had turned on his friends that night. The injuries to his face, previously seen as proof he was a victim, had perhaps been self-inflicted or sustained in a struggle with the people he was attacking. The District Court of Espoo ordered him held on suspicion of 3 murders in April 2004. Nils Gustafsson denied everything. He said, as he had said for 45 years, that he did not remember what happened. The trial proceeded. Prosecutors could not present conclusive new evidence. The blood on his shoes proved the victim's blood was there, but the killer, whoever they were, had been wearing Gustafsson's shoes. It did not definitively prove Gustafsson was wearing them at the time. Not guilty. Nils Gustafsson walked free. He later sued the Finnish government for infliction of mental suffering. He won. The settlement was 44,900 euros. Here is what we actually know after 65 years. The tent from that night is now preserved in the police museum in Tampere, Finland. In 2023, conservators began taking new samples from the canvas, hoping modern forensic techniques might reveal something that 6 decades of investigation missed. We know 3 teenagers were beaten and stabbed to death in the early hours of June 5, 1960, at a campsite near Lake Bodom. We know a 4th teenager survived with severe facial injuries. We know at least one person, Carl Gillstrom, privately told someone he did it, then drowned himself in the same lake where it happened. We know Hans Assmann arrived at a hospital the morning after with bloody clothes and black fingernails and was never charged. We know Nils Gustafsson had the victim's blood on his shoes, stood trial, and was acquitted. We do not know who killed Mila Bjorklund, Anja Maki, and Seppo Boisman. Nobody has ever been convicted. The case remains permanently open. There is something that stays with me about this case. The woman at the kiosk warned them. She looked at those 4 teenagers and she knew, or feared, something. And the reason she feared it slept in the same bed as her every night. If her husband did this, and his own words, hours before his death, suggest he did, then the case was never truly unsolved. The answer was always there. It just required one person to be believed, and nobody believed him when it mattered. Nils Gustafsson is the only living person who was at Lake Bodom that night. He is now in his 80s. He has never, in over 60 years, changed his story. He says he doesn't remember. Maybe he doesn't. The murders at Lake Bodom happened 65 years ago. The tent is in a museum. The suspects are dead. And on a clear summer night in Finland, the lake looks exactly as it did on June 4, 1960, when 4 teenagers pulled up on a motorcycle and decided to stay. I want to know what you think. Who do you believe was responsible? Is there a detail I missed that changes the picture for you? Let me know in the comments. And if this video kept you up, you're not alone.